To understand the physical fragility of the modern global economy, look at the Strait of Hormuz. At its narrowest, this waterway separating Iran from the Arabian Peninsula is just 33 kilometers wide. As a maritime transit route, its scale is well documented. Every day, roughly 20% of the world's crude oil and 25% of its liquefied natural gas passes through this specific choke point. But there is a second, far less visible layer of infrastructure sitting directly beneath the tankers. Resting on the seabed are 17 distinct submarine cable systems, carrying nearly 30% of total international internet traffic. While millions of barrels of liquid energy move slowly across the surface, hundreds of terabytes of digital data pulse at the speed of light. This geographic overlap creates a unique structural vulnerability. A single localized blockade here triggers a simultaneous global energy and digital crisis, a dual shock event. The public imagination often associates the internet with satellites. In reality, 95 to 97% of all intercontinental data travels through physical bundles of glass fiber laid across the ocean floor. Modern hybrid warfare doctrine has adapted to this physical reality. State actors recognize that targeting the seabed yields asymmetrical strategic damage, bypassing conventional surface fleets entirely. To see how this plays out, we can map the exact trajectory of a macroeconomic collapse. By using India as a primary case study, we can trace how a physical subsea cable cut in the Gulf cascades into systemic national failure within 72 hours. Securing the modern state requires an expanded focus, extending beyond traditional borders and airspace to include these invisible, deep-water data corridors. India's connection to Europe relies on a dense network of subsea arteries, anchoring in Mumbai and Chennai. If a coordinated strike severs multiple redundant cables within this choke point, the physical link is broken. The moment those physical lines are cut, an automated, mathematically predictable digital chain reaction begins its ripple across the globe. The internet was engineered to survive localized damage using the Border Gateway Protocol, or BGP. When a node fails, BGP searches for alternate paths. With the Gulf blocked, BGP redirects India's European traffic eastward, forcing it across the Pacific Ocean and North America. This is where the physics of distance take over. Even at the speed of light, laser pulses covering thousands of additional kilometers require more time. A highly efficient round-trip latency of 80 milliseconds spikes to well over 200 milliseconds. Almost immediately, a secondary failure occurs. The alternate Pacific cables lack the physical bandwidth capacity to absorb the massive data load, causing severe packet loss and heavy data congestion across the network.
BGP prevents a total national blackout, but the resulting extreme latency degrades the network to a state of functional paralysis for a high-speed digital economy. The immediate casualty is India's $250 billion IT and BPO export sector, which relies on real-time connectivity to service global clients. Cloud deployments on platforms like AWS, Azure, and Google Cloud are bound by strict service-level agreements. A continuous 200-millisecond delay instantly breaches these contracts, paralyzing multi-region cloud operations. The vulnerability hits the macroeconomic layer. High-frequency trading systems, providing liquidity to global stock markets, operate on millisecond precision. The latency renders their algorithms useless. International banking settlements via the SWIFT network experience severe transaction delays, grinding cross-border trade finance to a halt. On a localized level, the clearing mechanisms that process over $30 billion in annual remittances from the Gulf to India face severe delays. Even isolated domestic successes face disruption. India processes over 13 billion UPI transactions monthly, but the underlying cloud architectures still depend on continuous global connectivity to verify and process data reliably. This dual-axis chart maps the ultimate compounding shock. This digital paralysis hits at the exact moment Brent crude prices spike violently in response to the physical surface blockade in the strait. The Hormuz dual shock converts a localized maritime conflict into a systemic, unmitigated macroeconomic collapse for any geographically dependent nation. Surviving subsea hybrid warfare requires state planners to abandon just-in-time data architectures in favor of robust data sovereignty. The most critical infrastructure mitigation is the India-Middle East-Europe Economic Corridor, or IMEC.
This physical land bridge drives a rail and data link from the UAE across the Arabian Peninsula, bypassing Hormuz entirely to the Mediterranean. But physical redundancy highlights a severe sovereign deficit. India currently possesses 0 indigenous submarine cable repair vessels. Relying on foreign-flagged repair ships is a profound strategic liability. In a crisis, these commercial vessels could take weeks to arrive, or operators might refuse to enter a kinetic conflict zone. Locating, raising, and splicing microscopic fiber optics on the open ocean requires highly specialized maritime assets. A state only achieves true sovereignty over its data when it possesses the physical maritime capabilities to defend and repair the conduit itself. This physical vulnerability necessitates an evolution of India's Act West diplomatic policy. Future diplomacy must explicitly mandate mutual digital infrastructure protection agreements with the UAE, Oman, and Saudi Arabia. Policymakers frequently point to low Earth orbit satellite constellations like Starlink as the ultimate failsafe. While vital as emergency backups, the physical limitations are stark. Entire satellite constellations lack the bandwidth required to replace enterprise-grade subsea fiber. This recurring risk of a dual shock demonstrates that submarine fiber-optic cables are as critical and as vulnerable as oil tankers. National security planning can no longer separate telecommunications policy from maritime defense doctrine. In the era of hybrid warfare, the ocean floor is the ultimate front line. Securing the seabed is the absolute prerequisite for national economic survival.